Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer, food maker, or artisan selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast.
I'm Kat Fields-White.
And I'm Bridget Myers. We're longtime farmers market managers, educators, and consultants. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros with us.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by American Farmland Trust, protecting farm and ranch land to help foster a new generation of farmers. Your membership helps promote healthy food and a better climate for all of us. For more information about all of their programs to keep farmers farming, click the American Farmland Trust logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com. Remember, no farms, no food. This episode was originally broadcast in July of 2023. You'll be hearing from Jessica Mullen, who also presented at the 2024 Intense Conference and was hugely popular with her explanation of how markets of any size can gain sponsors. Now let's listen into what she had to say before she got to our stage. She's a big fan of conferences, education, and honing her craft. She's a real farmers market pro.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everybody. Today we're chatting with Jessica Mullen, Director of Marketing and Development at the Travelers Rest Farmers Market in South Carolina. We first met Jess at Intense, the Farmers Market Conference in San Diego, where she brought an amazing energy to our group. Let's talk about all the ways that Jessica and the rest of us in the farmers market community deepen and share our knowledge. Welcome to Tent Talk, Jess.
Hi, Kat. Hi, Bridget. It's really great to see you guys.
It's so nice to see you.
It is.
Seems like we just saw you.
I like faces. I just saw her.
Oh, yeah. I just saw each other.
We were hanging out in the Canada.
Oh,
yeah.
Conference folks here.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to stay back and hold down the fort, I guess, while you're traveling around. Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of those comments too. Anytime Miranda and I travel from the market, we're like, what are you doing out there? Experiencing the world. Probably be a better person.
Right. And bringing it back home, of course, to benefit your whole organization.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's what it's all about.
All right.
Well, Jess, can you tell us and our listeners kind of briefly about your personal and professional background and how you found your way to farmers markets?
It's a really fun question. Love asking that for most market people because it's like you never intended to be here, and yet here you are. Kind of like a journey that takes a lot of twists and turns.
Nobody takes a degree in farmers market management, right? It's not, I mean, who says?
Not yet.
Well, maybe your kids, Bridget.
Yeah.
But what little kid says, I want to grow up to be a market manager?
The dream.
The dream.
Speaking of degrees, I used to be a faculty instructor teaching public speaking and communication up until the pandemic. And I was looking for a summer job since I was a teacher. And I thought I had a social media marketing background briefly after school. And I was looking between two jobs, electrical wiring company or a farmer's market. And I thought that farmers markets would be easier to take social media shots of. So I got a summer job there. And then I really kind of fell in love with the community of farmers and markets and went full time with that and left my students, who I do miss, to do that full time in 2021. And so I've been full time for a year and a half, really enjoying the farmers market community and what we get to do.
Well, as a fellow farmers market person, it's nice to hear that farmers market won over the electrical engineering. I mean, it's a tough race.
Compelling pictures of like plug strips.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, it could have been good, but you know what? I think you made the right choice. So
I think so too.
Yeah, you're here. So marketing and development kind of sounds like an office job. Are you on site at the market as well?
Yeah, it's a really great title. And I like to joke with people, it sounds way more intimidating before you find out there's only two of us on staff at the TR Farmers Market. But I do go to the market every week and love setting up, tents and tables, taking out trash, speaking really nicely to dog owners so we have to just buy them treats and take home to their dogs instead of bringing them to market. But I do get to go every Saturday and be on site.
Oh, nice. So it sounds like you're not just doing marketing things while you're there, but also just the usual
marketing, but also marketing.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. You're doing market things. Awesome. Well, yeah, that sounds great. And I always when other market managers ask us like, how do you get a marketing person? And, should we get a remote person, or would this work to be a remote job or to have some company come do it? And it's like, that could work, but it's really much better, I think, and conveys a more genuine kind of organic message if the person doing your marketing is on site at the market. Because it's just, you got to kind of capture that feeling. So that sounds like what you're doing there. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Travelers Rest Farmers Market. Like, is it year round? Is it seasonal? Days and times? How many vendors do you have?
Yeah, we operate in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. I am in the sunny South right now. We're experiencing a summer humidity storm. If you've been to the Southeast, you get it. It's in the afternoon. Those kind of roll through every day. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. But yeah, we're in South Carolina, and we have 75 vendors on average during the summer, which is our, obviously main market. We are technically year round because we meet monthly in the off season. So we're weekly, May through October, and then monthly the other months of the year. And we are a producer only market. So everything that you buy at the Travelers Rest Farmers Market is grown or made by the people you're buying it from. So we really enjoy getting to kind of get to meet local farmers and artisans that way. We meet on Saturdays and during the summer from 8:30 to 12. It's a really great market that I love being a part of and a big community hub for our small town. Travelers Rest is outside of Greenville, South Carolina, which is a little bit larger. And Greenville is on the highway corridor between Charlotte and Atlanta. So if you're familiar at all with the Southeast, that might help you place us a little bit. But we're quickly growing, which I hope maybe we'll get to talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But what do you do when your small town is growing a lot and your market is kind of in between what is there and what's coming? That's something that we kind of balance a lot in Travelers Rest. So that's what we are up to, our little market.
Nice. It sounds like a great market. Is your monthly market, is it in the same location as your weekly market that you have on the different seasons? Great. That's a great way to still kind of continue your market year round, but maybe not commit to something every week if the weather is different or the growing season maybe slows down a little bit where you are. So kind of keeping it in front of mind, during the irregular season.
I mean, what is the growing season like there, Jess? Could you go year round?
We're thriving right now in July, and we do start like early May. Most of our produce farmers really wind down in August. And so there's definitely still some production, and some of them work on season extension and off-season growing, but most of our growing does happen in the summer. So we kind of lean more into artisan market in the off-season. We obviously still have produce, but it's not as plentiful, just like it's not there for them to bring to market. So because of that, we really prioritize farm and food forward vendor policies during the summer. And also a quick plug, we just started our winter market when I came full-time in 2021. Highly recommend doing once a month because we found that when there's bad weather, people prioritize it more. So we've had really great turnout almost immediately. It's as big a turnout as our summer markets, but it's because it's kind of like a once monthly event people have to make time for.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, like they know that they can't just come next week. So if they miss it this week, they have to wait a whole month to see you guys again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had conversations with people who have weekly markets even that are thinking about doing a standing market sort of thing where they're open, 3-5 days a week. And it's a whole different marketing approach and a whole different situation because you lose the urgency. The fact that we pop up and then disappear 4 to 6 hours later, or in your case, once a month, and then don't come back for another month, that creates a real urgency for your shoppers. They know they've got to come then. So they all come at once.
Don't miss it.
Which is great, for your farmers and purveyors.
And they stock up. They buy a lot because they know if it's soap or whatever, they need a month's worth. So it's good for our vendors too.
Yeah, that's great.
Smart.
Awesome. Nice. Sounds like you've got it worked out. So do you limit your vendors to those within 50 miles of Travelers Rest? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I like quoting that. We have 2 exceptions to that because of where we are. We are more than 50 miles from the coast. So we do have a seafood vendor that drives up from Charleston. And then we have a maple syrup vendor, which doesn't work out here in the Southeast. So we have a maple syrup vendor from Pennsylvania. His family owns a farm there. His parents do. So they operate at farmers markets in Pennsylvania and here in South Carolina. So there are 2 exceptions. Everyone else 50 miles.
Cool. Do you have coffee there?
Oh yeah, we have 3 or 4 of them.
We had a big discussion. It's at another conference that I was at. We're going to talk more about conferences in a minute.
Yeah.
One of the biggest discussions next to dogs are not at the market, of course, was coffee or not at the market because, almost none of us, for almost nobody, at least in the U.S., is coffee locally grown.
Yeah.
So, we develop our own, it's got to be locally roasted. And then other people have different criteria that they use to get coffee at the market.
Right.
But I mean, you need coffee at the market. So somehow you have to work that into your your requirements.
Ours are all locally roasted.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that's why at the Farmers Market Pro, I can't believe I never thought about that aspect of it. They didn't grow those beans here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I think as markets kind of grow and expand into more like trying to be a grocery store, you don't want to have every single thing. We're not going to have like Fruity Pebbles at our market, but it's like, okay, well, what's on people's lists that can be at least like enhanced locally, like roasted coffee beans. And if that's truly something that you feel is more like that makes it kind of a producer product, then that can fit within your criteria. But being open to like kind of shifting that as, need kind of increases for these kind of things at markets. So
yeah, some people say if it's just not possible to, it's kind of like your maple syrup. If it's just not possible to get that produced in your area, but it feels like a key grocery item that they will look at, bringing somebody else. You still want to make sure it's a producer, maybe not necessarily a really local producer.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Good way to get around it.
So Jess, we first met you at the Intense conference. So how did you become aware of that conference and what brought you to San Diego?
We came because I think we found you on social media, the Farmers Market Pros organization, and found it to be super helpful on the ground kind of thing. And when we came to the conference, that's one of my favorite things about it, just how like hands-on the Intense conference is by other people doing our job. We felt like we found this amazing niche for like, you know about like the dog problem, about like, me. I feel so seen. And I know there's a lot of other people like Christy from Pennsylvania or Melanie from Canada. Well, you come like instant friends with people that come to the conference because they know your experiences, they know your highs and your lows, and we're passionate about the same thing. So really great, just like practical help and connection with other people is awesome.
So would you say your favorite part of Intense conference is what's happening on stage or what's happening in the seat next to you?
Ooh, it can be both. I really appreciate the way that y'all as the organizers put together intentional socials afterward. We did breakout sessions this year for the first time. That was amazing getting to talk, because I think as far as like what's actually part of the conference program, it's all people doing what you're doing and sharing their practical, like, this is what worked for me. This is what we learned. This is what we're achieving. This is the way we're changing our communities. So it's very inspiring, but it's so on the ground, and can't recommend it highly enough. I do it pretty often too. Most farmers market managers I run into.
Yeah, you do. It's great. And the social stuff to me, I think is so important, and more breakout sessions coming in 2024.
Everyone really liked that. And even, I really liked that stuff too. It was really great, even though I was just kind of wandering around, like popping into all of them. It was nice to get to hear from a lot of different people that were there, like attendees, and get to hear different perspectives. Because as a market manager myself, having to do this, every single week, it's like I like to talk to other market managers too. And that's just so helpful if you can get feedback. And if it's a little like structured conversation too, because I like the social stuff that we do, like the meetups and everything. But if there's like kind of like guiding a conversation, I learn so much when we do that stuff. So that's great. Yeah.
We picked great facilitators, I think, and that did go well. So we're going to do more of that this coming year. Any particular takeaways that you've brought back from Intense to your organization and been able to add to the way you do things?
I think one of our big impacts, which is in the background, is we changed our vendor orientation a lot based on the come through market and what Shiny Flannery's doing out on the West Coast. Really were impressed with the way that she was setting up her information and engaging with her vendors. So we've really upgraded that a lot. And that's something, people from the outside of market might not notice, but it's helped our vendors a lot. So it's just we come out with like an 8-page document of all the things that we've learned. So I could go for a while on that, but that's one of the big things is just the behind the scenes management. We did also add MarketWorks this year for the first time. I know that we learned about that from that conference, which is a software that helps us with vendor management. And so it's just been able to help us organize a ton. And I know a lot of other managers don't have a ton of time or don't have a 2-person team. And so having things run smoothly behind the scenes is just such a big deal to you actually being able to enjoy your Saturdays or get on to whatever else you're doing with the rest of your life. So just the behind the scenes organization's been big for us.
That's great.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And where else are you going to find that? Because most people don't know that there's anybody that manages a farmer's market. What do we do?
What do you do the other 6 days?
Yeah. What do you do the other 6 days? We're going to do a t-shirt that says that. Are there any other local farm conferences or seminar type stuff in your own area, like regional organizations or meetings that you've attended and found valuable?
Actually, no. There are other really helpful operators in the Southeast who are incredible. We've learned a lot from like Sadrina, and also there was a cohort there from Sadrina Joel out of Atlanta, and then there was a really awesome market team from Savannah there this year, and then some others from Kentucky. So it's interesting to see what's going on in the Southeast because the Southeast has its own set of like cultural issues or attitudes that make markets like successful or not, like the challenges to overcome. And we are kind of considering starting a farmers market association for ourselves in the upstate because we do have some sister markets. But unlike in San Diego, where you guys get to be, where every neighborhood has a really small 10 to 15, vendor market, which is great for being accessible. Most of our markets where we live, there's like one big market in every town. And so it's kind of an event every Saturday, but it hasn't gotten to be part of the culture where everyone has to come for their groceries all the time. And so that's really like we're kind of pioneering in that. I love getting to visit the West Coast and even like the Pacific Northwest and getting to see ways in which they're like 10, 15, 20 years ahead of us when it comes to like local food systems. And what does that look like at the higher level of associations or working well with the government, whether that's local, state, or federal, and working well with those programs. I just think that the Southeast, at least where we're at, we're still working to build those connections. And so getting to get to places like the Intense Conference and comparing those with other regions of the country, I feel like I get to see what's possible for us to grow in. But it's definitely a beginning of the road kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. We do see a lot of people that come to Intense or not, but also do their regional conference. So a lot of the areas around the US have a regional conference of some kind. Typically, a state association holds it, or it's held in conjunction with maybe a state produce association or something like that. Pick Tennessee, does a thing where they have a farmers market module. Sometimes the market manager modules at those conferences are not real strong. I mean, part of the reason Intense happened was because I was going to California Small Farm Conference every year, and it was terrific if I wanted to learn how to set up a new irrigation system or switch from conventional to organic farming. But on the farmers market manager side, there just wasn't a lot of content. So we really try to kind of aim our conference at market managers. But I think it's really important as a market manager that if you do have a regional conference, even if it is mostly farm content, that you go to those conferences so you get to network with people in your own area as well.
Yeah, and it can really help strengthen. It sounds like you're kind of gathering like-minded folks to kind of incorporate regular food access into like the culture of how people view buying their groceries and things like that. And that's just like a more holistic, big idea that's going to need a lot of people involved to kind of get that into the communities there. So that's exciting.
But I admire you for thinking about starting a state association. I think it's really important. They do really good work. Yeah. And they're really powerful in terms of advocacy, especially when you're looking at state policy and things.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jess and I also ran into each other at the International Public Market Conference in Toronto this year.
You're so fancy.
So fancy. They don't do that every year. They sort of do it every 2 years. They had a big gap with COVID and things, and they travel around from cities to city internationally. So there was one in Barcelona, I don't know, 8 years ago, I think, and then I went to one in London. And then there was kind of a big gap. And then this one was in Toronto. I don't know if they're ever going to make it to the US again in my lifetime, but we'll see. They are working on the next one. I think they've got bids out for cities. But Jessica, was there anything in particular that drew you to that conference?
Probably the placemaking aspect of markets and what that offers. It's a major personal passion of mine, and also for the market organization that I work for. When we were founded, we were called the Travelers Rest Community Farmers Market. And we were actually not founded by farmers or vendors, but we were founded by neighbors that had moved from other places that had a market and wanted to establish one in their hometown. And probably the quote I've carried the most from the international conference that we got to meet at, the International Public Markets Conference, was someone that said, you can create a market with 20 tables and 15 tents. And I've gotten to see personally the way that transforms communities. Like I know our market just last year graduated 5 vendors from being at market to having a storefront. And I didn't realize like that's such an important part of how do you go from working on something in your garage. Like one of them was a bakery. He had like a DHEC like built-in kitchen built in his garage. And now he has like a storefront. And I realized how much like what I was doing on Saturdays with the like very physical, like setting up tables and like taking out trash was actually directly impacting places for people to hang out and places for businesses to grow. And I just realized like I could take back that feeling that a lot of us, okay, I'm getting on my soapbox really fast here.
Jump
Hold
on
on.
up.
I call my work like the anti-Facebook comment section. So basically, instead of, in anonymity, throwing insults at each other and not moving anywhere, a farmer's market creates a place for people to come together, meet people that either they need a friend or also meet people that aren't like them and be challenged in their worldviews or the way they do things. A place to be human and come for a few years and get a latte if that's where you're at. But also a place like if you're ready to take the jump and like buy a little 1 acre farm and try to start farming yourself, you can ask people about that at the market. You can make either big or small changes for holistic and healthy living because it's a public space. And I realized like in the US, we don't have a lot of those. So that's my long around to the back to the conference. They're about placemaking. And I just realized like when it comes to like impacting our culture, impacting our local economy, markets are so important for that. And that's really important to our market. And getting to like talk to other people there with how they're changing around the world because of that was really fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting conference because it is international. So we had a lot of attendees from Brazil and from Ghana, and it was really interesting. We said this about the conference in Rome as well. It's so funny to find out how differently people do things and how much the same we all are. We're doing the same things all over.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. His name was Sinsasi Boni, if I said that correctly, who was from Ghana, if I'm not wrong. And I think he was from the Ugandan group that didn't get to come, but he was doing a survey of markets. And I really appreciated like his general terms of looking at like what made markets successful. Like, did it have a children's play area? Like, did it have a place for waste? Like, did it have a place for vendors to like safely come in and unload? And I just thought it was great. Like Kat was just saying, like what makes us similar and what makes us different around the whole world. Kind of that ancient word for it was like the agora. Like it's a really ancient concept that we get to play with now. We get to do this. And I say play because it's fun for me, but like it is serious work and good work that we get to do.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many similarities. And like, I mean, like you're kind of talking about anti-Facebook comment section. I like that where it's like all markets are like face to face, right? Like we're not talking about like being a distributor. We're not talking about we're small groups. It's like these are communities coming together and it's a bunch of different people. So that's a similarity that we all have with each other. And it's really nice to kind of like enjoy the great things about that.
A person-to-person aspect.
Yeah.
It's just what makes us different and amazing.
Yeah.
Does your organization pay for you to attend conferences and take classes and things? Is that part of the program at Travelers Rest, or did you have to kind of sell them on that idea?
They do pay for me to come to the Intense conference, for which I'm very grateful. The second conference I attended this year, I did get a scholarship. So I think that's might be fun for people to know, like you can get a scholarship to attend conferences and maybe work something out there. I also paid part of it personally. So they definitely, I think coming back and presenting them with documents of what you learned at the conference helps them see how much it's worth. Also, the contacts that you make at conferences. Similarly to what I was just saying about farmers markets, I think conferences are so important because you're going for what you don't know that you need. You can learn a lot from watching YouTube or getting a book because you chose that. But when you go to a conference, you're kind of making space for you to like run into other people that you don't know you need to meet, that you're making space to like choose sessions while you're there that are bigger than you because you're there. In the same way that like a market creates space for like neighbors to run across each other, meet each other, start businesses, collaborating, conferences make space for you to kind of become more holistically educated on a topic and meet people you didn't know you need to meet. Like the International Public Markets Conference, I got stuck at a bus stop for an hour and a half in the rain because the bus no longer came to that stop with another attendee. And she was incredible. I got to like learn so much. She worked for a community economic development nonprofit in her town. I learned so much about the way organizations work. I wouldn't have done that or ever met her if I was just there to like take this one session that I knew I needed. So I think connections is big and being able to do more than just that one thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, being open to the unexpected value, I think is really important.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I love that when I go to conferences and I'm like, okay, I can see the agenda and I'm really excited about these sessions. And then I just go sit in different sessions and learn something that I never knew I needed to learn. But it ends up being like the most important thing that I learn at that conference, or talk to somebody that I just never even thought I would talk to anybody who did that job or who did it in their certain way, and just take those tools with me everywhere.
I feel like you had a lot of that happen at the Main Street conference.
Yeah, at
this
Main
year.
Street. Yeah, for sure. Which is not a farmers market manager conference, but somehow I just got so much valuable content out of that conference. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be adding, here's a little scoop. We're going to be adding a conference slash kind of one day. It's not really a conference, but it's a mini training just prior to Main Street in 2024. They're being held in Birmingham. So we'll be hosted near Pepper Place Market there, and we'll be doing a thing that focuses on vendors and then a little boot camp for market managers as well. So just sort of a one-day intense conference next May in Birmingham, Alabama. So we're going to branch out a little bit from San Diego and
Be in the SAP.
take our stuff on the road.
That is so exciting.
Yeah. So we'll be pretty close to you, Jessica.
Pepper Place is on my to visit list after they were also at the International Public Markets Conference. So we're planning to go in our off season when we can go on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite markets, actually.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about what you're doing to learn things, but you also teach a lot at the Travelers Rest Market, right? I mean, education's in your mission statement. How does that affect your market programming?
We had a little over 400 hours of free market programming last year that happens on Saturdays at market. And so kind of similar to what we've been talking about with conferences and with markets as a whole, as a concept, we love that markets are a place where you can run into an organization or an idea and have interactive education. You might get to try something you didn't try before. So two of our programs that are probably the most educational are Market Kids, where we have different organizations come out, and most of them are volunteers. So if you're not doing Market Kids programming, like we do not usually have a problem finding whether that would be like SNAP Ed, local universities, local churches, local libraries, local, even some daycares that are like forest focused, like they'll come and do like kind of crafts that are focused on nutrition. We ask them to do nutrition, environmental stewardship, health awareness, and just creative play. Any of those things with the kids to get them to enjoy eating their vegetables. That's a big thing. Know where food comes from. So that's one. And then our other one is Market Talks. So that one is mostly focused on the environment, or things like we have a bike group that is all about like walkability and being accessible by bike. And so they come and talk to people about why you should ride your bike to work, things like that. And we've had nutritionists come, we've had doctors come. We had a really cool guy come one time who was like an ER doctor who was teaching about like poisonous flora and fauna in our local area to know what to look out for. And so it's just a great platform for other organizations that want to come and meet people. And then it helps people at our market to start to learn more about where food comes from and how to be healthy. I love that it's interactive. We really tried to get people to come for classes and to like sit down at 10:30. They didn't like doing that. So it just ends up being conversational. But I think sometimes that's more effective than slides anyways. So, or we might get our sit down class one of these days. But for now, it's conversational, person to person. So I love that.
I like that actually better because a lot, part of the drawback sometimes to having educational programs at a market where you want people to sit down is we don't really want people to sit down. We want them to keep shopping. So, I mean, they're there to support the vendors and the farmers. So if you have this kind of walk-through education, that may be a more appropriate thing for a farmer's market.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And also speaking of vendors, like we have one program called Market Cooks, and we sometimes have local chefs come. Gets kind of fancy, watermelon gazpacho and stuff, which is incredible and fun, creative. Another thing we're focusing on this year, and that's also kind of thanks to things we learned at the Intense conference when we had that cooking demo there. It was so simple. And so I've been encouraging people like just do the simplest things. Like we just need someone to show us how to cook kohlrabi. And so we had a vendor who brings kohlrabi to market, and she made 3 different types of coleslaw. And she's found that her sales tripled for kohlrabi that week because people understood what to do with it. And so we encourage our vendors, like we had Rancher making beef sliders, and their sales, when you have that grill there, which I know maybe not all markets can do, but when people were smelling that, their sales were like way better that week. And so it also helps people sell more products.
Wow, that's really smart. Yeah, I know that chef demos can really do a lot for the market as a whole because folks can come down and learn that they can buy their weekly groceries there. But really, I mean, like you're saying with kohlrabi, it's like teaching shoppers what to do with seasonal produce, even if it's something that they're not familiar with. That will help them like learn to love that and feel comfortable shopping for it and buying it. So what a benefit to the farmers too.
Yeah, really, really a good idea.
Mhm.
So while you're educating people at the market, you're also educating your community about what you're doing to educate people at the market and what you're doing to improve your food system. We love that there's a really beautifully designed page on your market website that uses data to teach people about the impact that your farmers market has in your community. How has that developed? How'd that come about? It's really, really clever. I would strongly recommend anybody go to travelersrestfarmersmarket.com, hit the impact page, it's slash, / impact, and look at that, because the way you put together those hard numbers, but in a very friendly, kind of user welcoming way is really, really smart.
Mm-hmm. I think if I could give two quick hacks to other farmers market managers, one would be we send out an automated email every Saturday called the Sales and Stories Report that says, how much money did you make this week? It's anonymous, so they can tell us. And then they also can tell us stories of what happened at their booth this week. Usually positive. I'm not sure we get a lot of negative stories. They usually come to us directly with that. But tell us, like, did you have a customer who uses your all natural deodorant? And one of them was like, they said that this deodorant saved their marriage and stuff like that. But I actually got a really useful statistic from that last year, which was we had in those stories 17 US states and 10 foreign countries where people were just like, oh, I'm stopping in from Brazil. I don't know how they found our little market, but they're like, and they just mentioned that the vendors told us. And so we actually were able to use that to be like a statistic, like, we're a pretty significant source of like tourism for our town. Like people who visit or new residents are coming to us. And so that was really big to prove like our place in the community. But then also with sales, you guys talk about this a lot, like our numbers matter a lot. And so we got to kind of extrapolate from the half of the vendors that told us how much they're making to say how much we made in a year. So we pretty safely estimate that our vendors made over $500,000 last year at our markets, which was 30 markets. And then when you can start illustrating things like that, grants, and also we have a really great relationship with our local government, like the city where we're at, because they can see the impact that we have. So that's a sales and stories report. And then my second one. So at the beginning of the year, the second thing that I think is really helpful is asking your farmers how much acreage they farm, what generation they are, because some of them, it's awesome because they're like fifth generation, and that's awesome. 40% of our farmers are first generation, which is awesome. And we get to tell people that.
Wow.
And then asking them that, asking their acreage, asking them how long they've been farming, and just some of those things at the beginning of the year really helps illustrate, and just is a good time to kind of take a snapshot of your vendor demographic. So it's helpful, especially with farming.
That's amazing. You do some other kinds of education and incubation too. So you have a farmers fund, right? To keep increasing those new farmers?
Mm-hmm. We just started that this year, which we also learned at the Intense conference. There was another market, I believe, from Minneapolis that was in one of the breakout sessions. And they brought up that they have a fund like this. So I got to learn about how they distribute it through grants, but we're taking in donations and giving it to our farmers. So instead of filing for a government grant that could take months to receive and take like 30 pages of instructions, this if you've ever done grants before, it's really intimidating. Instead, our farmers get to be really simple and agile, as in like if something happens that's a disaster, we're going to have a small fund set aside to say like, here, our community's here to help you now, not 6 months from now, because there will be other great help then too, but immediate. And so we're pretty excited about that. Another program that we started 2 years ago was our Young Entrepreneurs program. So that's a little bit of an incubator for kids. I would love to see our like mentorship and first year vendor programs grow. I think a lot of other markets do that. That's an area we could grow in. But for kids, we do Young Entrepreneurs We're in a second year of that, and we partner with a local business that cares a lot about that. So they sponsor it, but we get to do workshops with them. And the manager, which is actually at a coffee shop, Bridge City Coffee. So the manager there, their director of operations, gets to talk with the kids, help them learn about telling their story, packing for a market, entrepreneurship lessons. And then this year we did a pitch night for the first time, which was amazing. So my old public speaking teacher came out. We had these like 10-year-olds giving pitches for their businesses and then opened it to the community. So that's like probably our biggest beside market, not on Saturday programming. So that's just things we get to do to encourage creativity and community or entrepreneurship in our community.
I love it.
That is like everything I want to do at our markets. I love that. I think the young entrepreneur too, that's kind of like a little bit job security for market managers. It's like you teach these like
true.
young kids, like how they can go into business for themselves and what it takes to be at markets. And it's like eventually that kind of turns around. It's like when there's farming education, it's like that's, kind of helping to ensure that you have more and more farmers at your markets, at any markets in the coming years. So I love those kind of programs. That's awesome. And then also collecting information about impact. I mean, what a great way to fundraise and have your own funds for disasters. That's so important, I think, as we see more like climate things that are happening on farms, fires and flooding and all those things. What a great way to be able to at least give your farmers or vendors or anyone that's affected some kind of help that can be immediate because you've already done the back end work for it and raised the funds.
That little safety net, because so many of our participants at markets are really teeny tiny businesses, and they typically don't necessarily have a big insurance fund or a lot of reserve that they can fall back on when something unexpected happens.
Yeah, it can really be the difference between a farm going completely under or not. I mean, really, I've seen these small farms just really live on the edge. So what a great way to do that. It's kind of got my wheels turning too. So this is awesome. It sounds like you are just doing so much there. I'm very proud that you've come to our conference and kind of shared your knowledge with others and gotten things from the conference. And this just is like a great illustration of like knowledge exchange within the farmers market management community. So grateful for you. What is next for Travelers Rest Farmers Market and for you?
We have our yearly fundraiser that we know Kat is a really big fan of and is definitely coming to in the next couple of years. But it's the tomato sandwich taste off, where we have
I intend to be a celebrity judge next year.
That's your favorite thing.
Yeah, we have
she will fly in.
Local restaurants come. We're from the Southeast. If you don't know what a tomato sandwich is, it's literally just tomato and mayo and bread.
And good mayonnaise.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah. Good mayonnaise and bread. That's the trick.
I will tell you, as a child, this is like a core memory of mine that I have about my mom, that she would be eating tomato and mayo sandwiches on good bread, and just the pure joy that would exude from you.
Hashtag pepper the hell out of it.
That's right.
It's the pepper on the tomato. That's
true. Yeah. So we'll have that.
Well, that sounds awesome. So it's an event that you do.
Yeah, it's our largest fundraiser. And we have local restaurants donate sandwiches. And so we quarter them. So they donate 175 sandwiches. We quarter them, and that makes 600 samples. We sell 600 tickets, and you get to sample 7 different sandwiches from 7 different restaurants. It's a lot. Need some water with it. And then it's actually by vote. So it's people's choice. They get to take home the big tomato trophy. Some of our local chefs get really into it. I didn't come up with this idea. Other people in our community that served on the board before we did, but like embrace like your local culture, find that weird niche thing. And we made that into a fundraiser that is our biggest one of the year. So we're really looking forward to organizing that again and getting to celebrate Southern culture and the tomato in July 29th of this month.
I love that. So wait, does that happen like at your market, or is it in a different place? It's during the market. So
yeah, it's from 9:30 to 11. So it also brings people to market. It definitely started small. It's gotten bigger. So it's a blast.
So this is like, Bridget runs this big chili cook-off every year, but it's kind of its own different thing. This is like if you took the Snow Chili Fest and you plopped it into your farmer's market. Can you imagine?
That would be
the excitement and the chaos.
That would be chaotic, but also love it because it like brings the two things together. And I feel like the kind of people that would go to a farmer's market also would enjoy something like a tasting event. So it's like, you're catering to that same group that would just get so excited about it. And that's incredible.
That's
yeah.
so perfect.
I love that.
I love produce culture.
Yes. Yeah, definitely love that. And it's so great because farmers market managers, sometimes it's like, oh my God, we have to do this whole like separate event and I don't know how to do an event. And
even though you're doing an event,
you're doing an
once
event.
a week, right?
Yeah, but it's like a fundraising event. It's like, this is such a great, this is so great. And I mean, not every chef and restaurant wants to participate in this, but what I've learned over the many years we do a chili cook-off. So the chefs have to bring 20 gallons of chili to our event. But, they get so excited about it. And I kind of like stoke the fires like, oh, well, your pal down the street is going to make a chili. He said he's going to make the best chili, and these chefs will be like, I make the best chili. And so it's just like, what's like cool in your town and what can they make? And, even if it's something simple, a tomato sandwich, I mean, that's incredible. So
you guys are just posting about the Pickle Fest that just got started. Where is that market? Do you remember?
Nolensville, Tennessee. I mean, Casey and Daniel, they're so clever.
I'm flying out for that.
Right? Bridget will be in on that one. We'll make a circuit. We'll do the Pickle Fest and then we'll do the Tomato Sandwich Festival. I can see next summer is going to be tasty. Love it.
Yeah.
But I thought the Pickle Fest was brilliant because they highlighted people selling cucumbers and vegetables that could be pickled. And then their mushroom guy made mushroom pickles and they had bread that had pickles in it. I mean, they really took over every aspect of the market. And I said, so what went well? What didn't go well? And she said, I mean, the big problem, she was getting hostile comments in social media about, I came out and you were out. She's like, well, you should have been there early. But I mean, they got such a good response that people were we want more pickles. And we've made sure now that pickleable will be going into the dictionary because if it wasn't a word before, it should be now. So, Jess, you had mentioned right at the beginning, and so I want to follow up with this before we wrap up for today, but you said one of the things you're going to be tackling next is that your small town is growing bigger. And how's that going to affect your market, and how is your market going to affect that process?
That's a great question. We carry a lot how to hold respecting City Joel calls legacy residents in a neighborhood of those who already live in TR, that's Travelers Rest, for those who already live in TR, and then new residents who are coming in. The work from home movement has brought a lot of people from more congested, bigger cities or from the West Coast to our town. Like I mentioned, that statistic about 17 states and 10 foreign countries visiting like this really small, used to be very rural at the base of the Appalachian Mountains town. People are interested in being outdoors and they have a lot of money to invest when they come. And so there's a lot of like political tension that can come with that as well. Even within the town, like local politics, like we're full, get out, that sentiment. I think it's important to value like what do they bring to the table? And then what does the legacy resident who is here bring to the table? And how are we making our market a place that's welcoming for the legacy resident and for the new resident? We're kind of like a bridge in that way. Again, the anti-comment section. It's really easy to hate your neighbor until you meet your neighbor. And that's not always going to be true. I know I'm a little bit optimistic, but I'm going to remain that way. Creating a place for people to meet, for people to pour into the local economy and businesses that already exist is really important. And when it comes to like the future, what we're doing is trying to get outside of who I'm reaching on Instagram. I think I have a really easy job of reaching new residents on Instagram, but I have to ask, how do I reach rural residents that are already here? One of them this year, one of our ways of doing that was partnering with a local bank and sending out in paper bank statements that go out. Those who are, I'm guessing, not as like digitally, involved. I mean, I also still get a paper bank statement, but like they go to some of the counties nearby that we're trying to reach, either that are like low income or just those who aren't naturally coming to the market. And they're sending out flyers for our market in their bank statements that go out. And so they're a sponsor of our market. They're paying the postage for that and they're paying the printing cost. So like they get to say like, we're super local and we're helping, because they are. Now, also when it comes to new businesses and some of those developing businesses that want to throw money at us, but maybe might not be in the best interest of our legacy residents, we have to already know our values going in. And again, if you want to learn about this, I would direct you to like Shiny Flannery and some of the resources she does for protecting minority communities. Know your values and say, when you give us this money, we're giving it to help those who are already here. You're not going to just get like your token shout out for this. It needs to be given to actually help. And you need to step in the background to be able to do that. Again, Shiny's going to teach this way better than me. So look her up if you'd like to learn about that. But I think for us, knowing what we are about, which is local farms, small business, and experiential education for community. Those things helps us drive like, okay, so you do want to throw some money at us, but you want your name all over everything, and you're going to change the flavor of our market by being here. We can't actually accept those sponsorship dollars, even though you'd like to throw them at us. Like, we don't want to be beholden to you. I know another market in our area that like did that, and now that they have to be in a certain location outside of a certain business because that business sponsored them. So they're really held back from what they want to do, even though they had that premier sponsorship. So knowing what's your values actually helps a lot in determining healthy relationships.
So smart. But you don't have to say yes to everything, even if on the short term it sounds like a good idea. You so smart the way you put that, Jessica. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And have something to kind of reflect on that you've already developed is just so important, because you get so busy and it's like, oh, you want to say yes to everything, and it's having something to remind yourself like what your values are and why you're there. So
it's been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, it's great getting to talk with you guys as well, and hope to see you in March.
Yes, we're very excited to see you.
Thank you,
It was
Jessica.
nice to talk to you, Jessica, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to American Farmland Trust for supporting small farmers and ranchers, preserving land for the next generation, fostering awareness of farmers markets nationwide, and for supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, and the annual Intense Conference. For more information about their work, click the American Farmland Trust logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow Farmers Market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community, and follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Find online education and other resources at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is hosted by Kat Fields White and Bridget Myers and produced by Leandra Hayes, with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.